Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for April 15th. Yes, it's tax day. Hopefully this isn't the first time you're being reminded of it, but it is $9 Monday at sportsmemo.com, and we're breaking down the NBA playoffs for tonight, quick hit tomorrow's slate, and talk some MLB games for tonight's slate. Full sports betting card with Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, happy tax day, man. God bless the extension.
God bless the extension is right, but yeah, hopefully you can get it finished tonight, and no late penalties or anything like that out there for the listeners, hopefully. And Teddy, you've been a little bit of a down weekend, but 60% in the NBA last 2+ months, and also 55% on all your plays across all sports in 2019. We're already midway through April, so it's been a great 2019 for you, Teddy.
Yeah, it's been solid, but you know me, I'm frustrated. I should have had the Rockets last night. I talked myself out of the Rockets. I used the Bucks as a free play, and somehow on a weekend that after the games go 4-0 to the under on Saturday, I talked myself into an over yesterday. They went 4-0 to the under again on Sunday. So I'm a little bit annoyed with myself on Monday morning, but that's par for the course. The only time you see me. The only time you see me happy is when every game I thought about playing, I bet and they all won. So I guess it's par for the course.
Yeah, it's all right, Teddy. We'll get back at him tonight, and we got Teddy's first MLB 5% of the year up at sportsmemo.com, and it's $9 Monday, so that would normally be priced at $30. Today, it's just $9 at sportsmemo.com. At the top of the page, his 5% big ticket in the MLB. He's also got a play on the 76ers versus the Nets Game 2. So that's also discounted to just $9. But we'll get after it on the NBA slate for tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific tip here. We got Brooklyn, Philadelphia on TNT, Teddy. 226 the total here, -8 Philadelphia laying at home. And Teddy, you talked about the total. I mean, the odds makers in the NBA, you can make the argument asleep at the wheel. 8-0 or just off the board, all unders here. And we've talked about it before. NBA playoff basketball slowing down defensive focus, and we've seen it in these totals. Would you look for that trend to continue?
I'm not excited about betting any overs, I'll tell you that. Let's see an over cash before we start betting them.
Yeah.
Which is what I should have said yesterday, but certainly it's something that we did talk about on the podcast last week about how, this has been the highest scoring regular season in modern NBA history. Will that translate to the postseason? And obviously, certainly when we looked at those game ones of round one, 8 unders, and there were a lot. I mean, obviously there was the Pacers Celtics, which stayed under by 50 points. More than 50 points. But even if you take that one out, the other 7 still stayed under by an average of 11 points a game. And the only one that, was, I don't know if you call it a bad beat, with the Utah-Houston last night staying just a half point under the total. Game 1 between the Nets and the Sixers stayed under in large part because Philly couldn't hit a broadside of a barn from three-point range. 3 of 25 three-point shooting for the 76ers in that first round game. And again, it's not like the Nets are known for their lockdown perimeter defense. Philly just didn't hit shots. And, that will happen in an NBA playoff game. It doesn't necessarily have any correlation to what's going to happen the next time around. And you have to expect that the Sixers will shoot better from distance tonight. The question is, can they get stops against the Nets doing that? Because, when you look at what Brooklyn did with their backcourt, Russell and LeVert and Dinwiddie, that trio, all game against Philly in game 1, they were able to penetrate. They were able to get open off the dribble, get good looks for themselves and for their teammates. And, they buried 3-pointer, 11 between that trio, about 40% from beyond the arc. That may well be a problem for Philly again tonight if the Nets have the emotional maturity. Because that's the question when you talk about a team that hasn't been in the postseason and that Philly's going to come with a haymaker. They got booed off the court the other night. Brett Brown, quote, "We're fine to find participants outside of Joel, who we really weren't sure was going to play. It didn't happen tonight. We have to get better, find a way to change some things to win." Brown has been absolutely roasted in the Philadelphia local media right now. There's a lot of pressure on the Sixers tonight. We'll see if the Nets have the maturity to hang tough, but I would expect Philly to bring their A game Their A game's good enough or not? It's another question entirely. With Embiid still questionable for this evening, the markets think he's going to play. Question is, what will his effectiveness be? And, we saw Jimmy Butler kind of take over the game for Philly early in game one. Didn't work out too well. Butler going to share with Tobias Harris and company here? We'll have to see. but the market's obviously expecting the bounce back for the 76ers. You know how the markets work. When the home team gets knocked off in game one, they tend to be priced a little bit higher in game two. With the zigzag in play. Of course, the zigzag hasn't proven to be profitable for the last 20 years, but the markets still react to it. That's why Philly is laying 8 tonight instead of 6.5 or 7. And, Penny right now is showing that this line could even go higher. Well, if Embiid is announced as probable or going to play, I would expect to see some additional 76ers money.
All right, Teddy. And he's got his 76ers versus Nets Game 2 money up at sportsmemo.com. And remember, guys, it would normally be priced at $20. It's just $9 for today, $9 Monday. We also got back-to-back games on TNT tonight, Teddy. 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific tip here. LA Clippers, Golden State Warriors. Looks like 234 being the total, 234.5 out there at Pinnacle, and it's same price as game one as far as, depending where you bought it at, what time, but it's minus 13, minus 13.5, depending where you're shopping. That's Golden State laying at home.
And this is legitimate over steam this morning. Again, we saw 8-0 to the under over the weekend, and we're seeing over steam on this game. So the markets are expecting the Clippers to push the pace at every opportunity this evening, which I don't know if the Clips are going to do. I mean, game one was really determined. There was one stretch right before halftime where the Warriors went on a big run. They outscored them 16-5 right before the break, and that was the game. The Clips trailed by doubles the rest of the way. Sort of made things interesting in the last couple of minutes, despite the fact that 3 of their 5 starters scored 3 points or less. You had Harrell coming off the bench and Williams coming off the bench to lead the Clippers in scoring. And they look like a young team. They look like a team that wasn't at Golden State's level. At times in game one, the question is, what's the complacency level for Golden State? And obviously, it wasn't like the Warriors were draining threes start to finish in game one. Steph Curry had a big game. He was the only one that had a really big game. They turned the ball over 21 times and still were able to win and cover. You look at this Golden State team, and we have a significant playoff history now for Golden State. Their best role is not laying big points in game two off a big game one win and cover. I'll just leave it at that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clips hang around for a while on this one.
And Teddy, I know you know as much as anybody about the NBA playoffs. Do you want a quick hit Tuesday slate?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Toronto again with a new head coach and DeRozan out of town. Oh, we got the playoff veterans, Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol. And here are the Raptors coming up short in another game one. It's hard for me to get to that. I'll tell you what. I think Toronto's a good notch better than Orlando. It's going to be really hard for me to get to the winner of the Raptors in game two. Maybe it's a Kyle Lowry issue. He didn't make a shot in game one, but I've got my concerns there. And certainly, we've seen over money come in on game two. Not my money. Orlando playing elite defense throughout their stretch run. And we saw some of these teams, again, Brooklyn, Orlando, the teams that were essentially playing playoff games for 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the playoffs started, do pretty well in these games. One, I can't lay it with the Raptors in game two. San Antonio, Denver played out the way I thought it was going to. I thought that Spurs were going to be able to take it to the Nuggets. They were able to control that game in the second half. Wasn't pretty necessarily for San Antonio, but Denver didn't hit shots. And now they're laying 7 in game two, and it looks like that money is coming up with the zigzags for the Nuggets. If I get involved in that game, it'll only be on San Antonio plus.
And welcome back into the Sports Memo Pod. We had some technical difficulties, but we're hitting on the MLB slate for tonight's action. That's Monday night, April 15th. It's tax day. Hopefully this is not the first time you're hearing of it, and you're at least mostly through your taxes. We got Teddy covers on. We're covering tonight's MLB slate, 7:40 Eastern, 4:40 Pacific. First pitch here, Toronto, Minnesota. Shoemaker versus Perez. Perez and the Twins laying minus 135 at home, 8.5 the total, Teddy.
Yeah, this is Teddy Handicap 101 right here. This is your classic Savransky play for MLB. And I actually use it as a free play. You can find the full analysis up at sportsmemo.com. and at wagertalk.com right now. This is the concept, all right? When I say Savransky 101 play, Minnesota's a good team, all right? Minnesota's going to be in contention in the AL Central all year. If anyone's going to knock off Cleveland, it's going to be the Twins. Toronto is a bad team, okay? The Blue Jays, they're not 5-11 right now by accident. Yes, they have the Orioles in their divisions. They're not likely to finish in last place. But, if Toronto wins 70 games this season, it'll be a successful year in many ways for the Blue Jays. And they look like that type of squad. So you have a good team at home against a bad team. But the bad team's got the good pitcher going. Oh, look at Schumacher. He's got these great numbers so far this year. Here's Minnesota with Perez. Oh, a fifth starter. Nobody trusts this guy. And what are you laying? Like $135, Minnesota's got the better bullpen. They have the better lineup. They're in better current form. I understand. Fifth starter against a guy who's looked okay so far. And Schumacher, by the way, last time out, his first road start, he got hit pretty hard in Boston. He escaped in that game. It wasn't like he was dominant like he was in his first two starts against light-hitting teams at home. So I do like the Twins. I think they're priced cheap. And I'm happy to take the better team laying reasonable prices even when the pitching matchup, the starting pitching matchup, not the bullpen, the starting pitching matchup favors Toronto. That gives me a cheap price to lay with the team I want my money on against the team I want my money against in a game where, hey, the bullpen's come into play, Minnesota's got the edge. If the lineup's come into play, Minnesota's got the edge. And no surprise if Perez pitches fairly well in his starting debut for 2019. His pregame quotes were bet positive. I'll just put it that way.
And guys, if you want to read Teddy's in-depth analysis on this game, it's up at sportsmemo.com on his handicapper page. Toronto Blue Jays, Minnesota Twins. He's got a free play up on it at sportsmemo.com. It's also $9 Monday. Every play on the site discounted to just $9. Normal pricing, for his 5%. Big ticket tonight would be $30. Today, it's just $9 at sportsmemo.com. Check it out. Great day to check out the website. We got an 8:10 Eastern first pitch here. Kansas City, Chicago White Sox in the AL Central, Teddy. 9.5 the total. Looks like the White Sox laying about minus 125 to minus 130, depending where you're shopping. How you looking to bet the Royals and White Sox?
So what's the biggest under-the-radar hidden trend in MLB this season with these two teams? And I'll bet you nobody knows. Some people might know.
The Royals bullpen is the worst bullpen in MLB.
21-7 to the over between them.
No way.
21-7. Kansas City can't hit and the White Sox can't hit, and they're 21-7 to the over so far this season. What does that tell us? It tells us volumes about these two bullpens. Two bullpens that you want to find ways to bet against. Now, we have seen the White Sox go under in their last two games. And unfortunately, and this is what kept me from getting the betting window with this one today. Boy, that weather forecast for the south side is pretty ugly, although the wind is blowing out to the left. Temperatures in the 40s. We've got light rain. It's not ideal hitting conditions in Chicago this evening. But when you're talking about, here we are, 3 weeks into the campaign, not even. When you find these early total trends and these early bullpens that can't get guys out, these are things to ride until they're fixed. And right now, the White Sox and Royals, for me, they're one-way teams. If I'm getting involved in any White Sox or Kansas City totals, I'll be getting involved with them over the number. Unfortunately, the weather makes me a little bit concerned about this over this evening.
Yeah, good analysis there, Teddy. I agree. Ride these trends until further notice. We got two late-night games we're going to quick hit on. And, $9 Monday, guys. Check out the website. And we got Cincinnati versus the LA Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern, 7:10 Pacific. First pitch, Castillo, man, he's been good, Teddy. 26-year-old Dominican kid, throws hard. He's got a lot of strikeouts going against Clayton Kershaw, and it's Clayton Kershaw's first time back up at the major leagues this season. I believe he had 2 spring training starts. The Reds have won 4 of 5, and it's 7.5 the total in LA Dodgers laying, minus 150, minus 155 here as the home favorites, Teddy.
Yeah, and again, if you were playing Clayton Kershaw over the front half of the campaign last year for the Dodgers, again, another playoff season, another very successful, largely successful campaign. And if you're playing Kershaw, what did he start last year? I think he had 2 wins in his starts before the end of June. and some of that was injury related. But I mean, whatever. You're laying a price with him early on. He went 2-6 in his first 8. The markets are reflecting that right now. The markets are reflecting a lot of concern about Kershaw, as you mentioned, dealing with more than his fair share of issues. And they like Castillo and they like this Reds team. I don't blame them. You have Kemp and Puig returning to L.A., both those guys hitting below the Mendoza line right now, but both got going a little bit in Mexico City over the weekend and maybe give Cincy some momentum. And as you talked about with Castillo, he is a hurler who the market's seeing a lot of buy signs on right now. And, it's not like the Dodgers have played good ball over the course of the last week or so. They snapped that skid yesterday against the Brewers, but prior to that, they had lost 6 in a row. So I'm not shocked at all that we've seen significant wise guy steam on Cincinnati, although, at plus 140 or plus 145, they're not nearly as attractive as they were when they were plus 170 earlier this morning.
Teddy, we got one more on the late night slate. NL West matchup, Colorado Rockies, San Diego Padres. Looks like it's 7.5. This one in Petco, minus 160. The Padres laying at home.
Yeah, and we're 3 weeks, a couple of weeks into the campaign, and I'm already set in my NL West. The NL West is a 2-team race. It's Padres. Padres are going to be there for 1, and nobody else is for 2. So when you see San Diego at home, the Rockies are playing 250 ball, and I know, again, they got off the schneid with a win they needed to have. Marquez with the and not just a win where they didn't have to use anyone from their bullpen. The complete game shutout from Marquez. He had perfection through 6 and a no into the 8th before letting it go. But that was a nice win for the Rockies. They had to have yesterday. But even in that game, they scored 4 runs prior to that 2-2-0-1. They're not hitting. And the Padres, who had won 4 in a row, 3 one-run victories in a row over Arizona, and those are the type of games that, man, that locker room comes together. You're reading these comments from the San Diego right now, the player quotes. This team feels like, I'll just say the confidence level is there. And Lucchese's, bet on all the way right now. Padres bullpen has been solid. There's enough to like here about San Diego. And the price isn't right. I'm not thrilled about laying $1.60, but I don't want the dog in this one. Padres look to me to be a bet on team right now. And with them coming off a loss and the Rockies coming off a win, the spot with San Diego returning home certainly makes sense to this better.
All right, and Teddy's got his first MLB 5% big ticket of the year up at sportsmemo.com. It's $9 Monday, so that play and all others discounted to just $9. He's also got his 76ers versus Nets Game 2 casher up as well. That's discounted to just $9. So a great day to check out the website. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down the MLB slate, and best of luck with your bets tonight.